Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining and taking time out of your busy schedules to come listen to us talk about how you can increase lifetime value through CRM marketing. And we're going to be telling this through the lens of a case study with one of our clients, Horseware Ireland. Which you'll learn all about later. Just a bit about us first. So my name is Caitlin. I'm a client lead here at Wolfgang Digital. I'm joined today by my colleague Porrick from the CRM and Marketing Automation team. Say hey, Porrick.
Hi, folks.
And we're delighted to also be joined today by one of our fabulous clients, Jody. Say hey, Jody.
Hi.
And Jody is the global head of digital marketing at Horseware Ireland. Horseware are a really cool brand, which we'll be telling you all about later on. We've never actually done a webinar with a client joining us before, so we're really, really happy that Jody could come along so you can hear straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak, about all the work we've done together with Jody and the team. We've been working with Jody and the Horseware Ireland team since April 2024, and since then we've done lots of exciting things together. Like most recently in the summer, the Horseware team kindly brought some of us to the Dublin Horse Show, where we could see horseware in action. But what was really exciting as well this year was winning some of our first awards together. A few months back, we won gold for Best E-commerce Strategy and silver for Best Integrated at the European Search Awards. And those are both entries for our search and CRM integrated strategy. So today, we're going to be revealing some of those award-winning secrets and how we helped Horseware grow their business internationally. But before we get into it, for those of you who haven't worked with us before or are not super familiar with Wolfgang, we're an independently owned performance marketing agency based in Dublin, Ireland. We work with businesses both in Ireland and internationally. There's about 70 of us here, and we're a global award-winning agency across all our services. Our CRM team work closely with Klaviyo. We've been lucky enough to become one of the only Irish agencies to be a Klaviyo Platinum partner. And if you're not familiar with what Klaviyo is, it's a really brilliant CRM and marketing automation platform that a lot of our e-commerce clients use. And we do work across multiple other CRM platforms like HubSpot or Salesforce, but today we're going to be focusing on the work we've done with Horseware on Klaviyo. So, if we were in the same room, I'd ask those of you who focus on ROAS as one of your key digital marketing KPIs today for performance. But seeing as we're not in the same room, I'm going to assume that there's a few hands, or if not, a lot of hands. And if you do put your hand up, that's absolutely understandable. For years, e-commerce growth has been judged by this metric. How much revenue can we squeeze from every single advertising euro? But as I'm sure a lot of you are feeling, in 2025, ROAS as that metric is really under a lot of pressure. And there's really three key challenges as to why maintaining a strong ROAS consistently and growing that. And there's three key challenges, I suppose, that are the reason that that's happening. First being rising acquisition costs, the second, loss of control to platforms, and third, the pressure to compete on price. We're going to go a little bit deeper into these challenges. So rising acquisition costs, it's not something new to 2025, but right now it's up to 25 times more expensive to acquire a new customer on advertising platforms than it is to retain an existing customer through the likes of CRM marketing. And that's because digital marketing platforms have matured over the last few years massively. There's a lot more businesses advertising on the platforms like Google, Meta, TikTok, etc. And therefore, it's just a lot more expensive and more competitive, and therefore more expensive to advertise here. Not a unique challenge to this year, but certainly one that doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon. Our second challenge, which has very much accelerated and exploded into our lives over the last year, is our loss of control to advertising platforms. So AI search and social commerce, such as TikTok Shop, are taking so much more of the customer journey and putting distance between us and the consumer. And it seems to be only getting worse based on what these kind of advertising platforms are saying or what they're going to release. Brands are increasingly losing control of how they show up and speak to the customer for this reason, because social and search platforms are increasingly controlling the message and the targeting and how we show up. We've been tracking traffic from AI for our clients over the last year, and on average, traffic from the likes of ChatGPT and other LLM searches has grown over 162% year on year. And although it may not make up a huge amount of your overall traffic or revenue just yet, the rate at which it's growing is unprecedented. So it's absolutely something to be taken seriously. And with the integration of conversational search, AI search on Google, users are now encouraged basically to do all of their research within the search results. And Google, in their kind of recent round of major announcements, it was earlier this summer, they held a conference called Google Marketing Live, and where they kind of announced all of their new and shiny products that are upcoming. And one key thing that piqued our interest was their agentic AI price tracker, or their agentic AI shopping experience that they're going to be releasing within AI mode on Google. And essentially what that does is discourages the user from clicking on a website until a product's price drops. So, you don't even need to click on a website until you're absolutely ready to purchase at the lowest price available. And it's very much just one of Google's many tactics to bring the whole funnel closer to being completely on platform. So Google launching this type of features not only makes it hard to drive high ROAS, but also makes it hard to even get a click to your website. This is the same for TikTok. So TikTok Shop, it's a brilliant platform for many brands, but it does, again, completely takes the customer journey on platform, takes the customer experience out of our hands, and it puts all of our storefront on platform, pretty much leaving us at the mercy of TikTok's algorithm. And again, putting more distance between us and the consumer because we aren't owning that journey whatsoever. And I don't know if anyone's actually watched or experienced a live kind of TikTok shop stream, but it reminds me of the shopping network that you see on the TV. I think the big one in the US is QVC. They use like a really direct and aggressive price-driven style of marketing and basically screaming at the audience to get the deal before it's gone. And it's, yeah, really super reliant on discounts over, I suppose, quality of product at times. And that brings us nicely, I suppose, into our third challenge, which is the pressure to compete on price. So I'd say in the last 3 to 4 years, not one of our retailers across our client data set has escaped Temu or these other marketplace giants in their Google shopping auctions. And the thing is about these guys, they have huge or endless marketing budgets, which allows them to completely dominate Google ad auctions and show up multiple times across a single search. And not only do these guys have massive budgets, but these marketplaces have very much conditioned consumers to expect lower price options or even kind of dupe versions of products, especially on the likes of Shein and Temu. So on-platform shopping experiences like Google, like TikTok, very much reward discounting and plus bigger budgets, obviously, making it really difficult for mid-market and premium brands to compete without just completely eroding on margin. In August, I'm sure some of you noticed that Amazon actually took a 1 month hiatus from Google Ads. And during this time, we saw some of our client CPCs reduced by up to 18% on Google simply by Amazon pulling out. The graph you see on the screen there shows that the day they turned back their Google Ads on in the EU, they appeared back as a competitor for 3/4 of European advertisers overnight. So I think just by a flick of a switch, it just shows how monstrous their presence is, and how our performance on ad platforms can be totally at the mercy of these corporations with their endless budgets and low prices. So, to summarize, these challenges of rising acquisition costs, loss of control to platforms, and the pressure to compete on price, it means that scaling business growth whilst driving high ROAS through social and search has become really, really difficult. And these changes mean we're losing control of the customer journey more because there's more distance in between us and how we show up and how we speak to the customer about our brand. But we think that CRM is absolutely the remaining digital channel that can sidestep a lot of these challenges and help give us the customer journey back. It very much gives us a direct line of communication to the customer, and it's kind of the last one-to-one communication between us and them. In case there's anyone not sure what I mean by CRM marketing, so it involves using your company's customer data, like a phone number or email address, to send timely messaging, like chat through channels like email or SMS, done through campaigns or through automated flows across SMS and email. Some of the attributes that we absolutely love about this channel are we own the data. We also own the message. So as I said, there's no kind of interpretation of AI about our brand. What we want to say to the customer is what they see. We own the targeting as well. There's no ambiguity or algorithms that's controlling that. We get to send an email or a message to who we want to send it to. And it's consent driven, which is really important. Like, unless you're not GDPR compliant or someone's forgotten they've consented to your comms, they generally do want to hear from you and hear about any updates on your brand. And really importantly, it's a really high ROI channel. In fact, as Wolfgang CRM clients have an average ROI of 46-1, and the industry average is about 36-1 for an effective CRM strategy. So it really shows how efficient this channel can be when it's done right. But lastly, I suppose our most favorite thing about CRM marketing is its ability to impact customer lifetime value. So instead of chasing once-off wins with ROAS, we really encourage clients to be looking at how we can make every customer who we do acquire more valuable, because we work very hard to get that customer in the first place. We pay a lot to acquire them these days. So, we need to make sure we're nurturing them over time and driving more value over their customer lifetime. But you're probably asking, what is the right strategy to build on lifetime value? So yeah, that's kind of what we're going to show you here with our case study. So I mentioned earlier, we're going to reveal some of our award-winning secrets, or tactics, I suppose, and bring you through a case study so that you can see in practice what an effective CRM strategy looks like for Horseware Ireland. Before we dive into the strategy, I'd love to invite Jody to speak, who, as I said, is the Global Head of Marketing at Horseware Ireland, to speak a bit about the brand. So Jody, for those of you who might not be familiar, can you tell us a bit about Horseware Ireland?
Absolutely. Thanks, Caitlin. So Horseware was founded in 1985 and has grown from a small Irish startup into a world leader in innovative equestrian rugs and apparel. At Horseware, we innovate with a very clear purpose, and that's to make life better for horses and riders. That purpose drove the creation of our very first product, the Rambo Original, which you can see there on screen. And that purpose, with the Rambo Original, with that purpose, had a waterproof, breathable, and practically indestructible rug. And this solved a real pain point for horses and their owners worldwide. This year, as we celebrate our 40th anniversary at Horseware, we continue to innovate not only in product design, but also in how we connect and market with our customers. Horseware is primarily a B2B brand with a very strong global footprint, particularly in Europe, North America, and the UK. In 2018, we launched our very first D2C site in the US. And in 23, we expanded with a new Magento platform featuring stores across the US, UK, Germany, France, and then a wider catch-all EU store. Today, consumers can shop a full range of horse, pet, leather, rider products directly from horseware.com.
Great. So thanks for that intro, Jody. I suppose when you came to start working with us in April 2024, what were the kind of key goals you were looking to achieve for the B2C side?
So yeah, we had very ambitious growth targets, as Caitlin and Porrick know, for our D2C business. It was coming off the back of a very strong initial launch across our key markets. But to achieve this, we needed a best-in-class partner with true global expertise, an agency that could integrate performance across all our channels, optimizing that customer journey and ultimately increasing consumers and conversions. Localization and automation of our marketing was also a key focus. With multiple stores across different languages and markets, we wanted to ensure we could tailor our digital marketing to resonate locally. On top of this, with PPC costs rising, we were very keen to shift more emphasis towards CRM, ultimately to build stronger retention, deeper personalization, and reducing the reliance on paid search while still maintaining a very strong presence across Google.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think for Horseware, all the challenges I spoke about there, about kind of competing on price and rising acquisition costs, were definitely a challenge. And yeah, CRM just made a lot of sense, I think, to introduce, especially on the localization side as well. So yeah, when we began working together then, what were the key challenges you were facing as you looked to grow the D2C side business?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, majority of our business comes from B2B partners, particularly across Europe, where retailers with both physical and online stores are very dominant. And that created two initial challenges for D2C growth. The first of those was price competitiveness. So on Google Merchant Center, over 60% of our products were listed at higher prices than our retail partners, making it pretty difficult to compete directly on cost. We wanted to ensure that we could continue to power our retail partners by not undercutting them on price, but by supporting them, driving customers to choose horseware and buy horseware through more consumer education, driving loyalty through email and all of our marketing, and ultimately increasing our brand share of search. Another issue we had when we first joined was we were experiencing shrinking brand demand, particularly in some of our key markets. The US, in particular, showed a decline in search demand, despite the US being our leading store. And then from a CRM perspective, our US subscriber list was starting to shrink. And this was because campaigns were being sent to large, unsegmented lists. And that really resulted in a low repurchase rate and lower CLTV, which is your customer lifetime value. And while our DTC side had proven its potential in that first year, achieving our ambitious growth targets for both our B2B and DTC business meant we needed to stand out as a brand. And that required building deeper customer relationships, delivering way more personalized messaging, and ensuring top tier visibility on Google.
Right, yeah, that's really helpful context. So thank you, Jody. As mentioned earlier in the challenges, competing on price as well is something that wasn't really doable a lot of the times for horseware. And I know Amazon was someone who shows up in your Google ad auctions as well. So, Horik, so when it came to horseware, and when they came to us with their challenges, what were the core objectives that we set for email and CRM as part of the solution?
Sure. So for horseware, we had a couple of very clear, I suppose, three main objectives. So getting into that. The first one was to increase the purchase and repeat purchase rates. So we had a huge opportunity here, like coming in, looking at their database, we had about 85% of subscribers had never purchased before. And only 6% of the people who'd purchased before actually purchased again. So this is a huge amount of people, I suppose, who, were interested enough to go ahead and subscribe to the newsletter and stuff like that. But ultimately what they were doing for them or what we were doing for them wasn't ultimately turning them into customers, or at least not making them buy directly online. And again, like you'd want as well to see that repeat purchase number go up as well. Another really key opportunity was looking at just the percent of revenue. And this is talking about GA4 last click revenue as well. Email at the time was making about 5% of their total revenue versus what we see for a lot of our clients. What we would recommend you try and get your percentage up to is about 9 to 12%. So that was the first objective, to try and go ahead and eat much more into that 85%, that slice of the pie. That was our first objective. Second one is to look at reducing the abandonment rates. So if you took a look at the whole customer journey from the moment they arrived at the website, there was a couple of really key opportunities here. So 97% of the website visitors were dropping off before they actually viewed a product and made a purchase. And as you can see from the funnel here, this is what that looked like. You had about 52% of the actual website sessions getting so far as looking at a product, 16% of those actually adding to cart, 35% of those buying at checkout, and only 44% of those checkouts actually converting into a purchase. And looking at how things were working previously, there was a lot of reliance on campaigns, a lot of great campaign stuff, but ultimately we weren't talking to people during those upper stages in the funnel. They did have a abandoned checkout flow, which is communicating a bit to people at the point of checkout, but there's a huge amount of volume just in the people before that, as you can see there, that they have a little bit more intent than somebody who hasn't browsed the website at all, who hasn't looked at a product at all. And it's also a slightly different conversation to have versus just somebody who's gotten all the way to the checkout. They basically stopped right at entering their credit card details, right? Third objective then, as Jody was saying there earlier as well, like Horseware as the manufacturer had a really key opportunity here to use CRM as a differentiator, as a way to not compete with their partners on price and stuff like that, but to use CRM to become an authority on their products and to benefit both the B2B and the B2C side. By driving greater customer loyalty, by educating people on how to use their products, what their products are made of, stuff like that, and really just position themselves as, we are the brand, hear it right from us.
Great. Yeah, I think in a nutshell, CRM for Horseware was the direct line to the customer, really, to, as Pork and Jody said, to avoid price comparison, for not only their partners but for other competitors as well, and really show and be the kind of authority of a helpful brand to the consumer, and keeping them engaged as well. So we had some really clear objectives that you've laid out. What was the actual CRM strategy look like in practice then?
So, to begin, let's take a look at, I suppose, where they were previously. So, to start off, a lot of great content in here. This is just a selection of, I guess, a couple of different campaigns that were being sent out before we came on. You know, there's a lot of great stuff in there between like choosing the perfect rug and looking back in the previous year, particular sales. But you'll just notice here, like all of that was sent in January, for instance. And I guess the problem with this is, you know, for instance, like choosing the perfect rug, that's super relevant to, say, your new customer, somebody who's just came in, or somebody who maybe has abandoned a browse or something like that. It's a lot of information to get somebody towards buying their first Horseware rug. But if you're just sending as a blast campaign in January to everybody, number one, there's going to be people in January who, you know, they've already purchased maybe 2, 3, 4, 10 rugs off Horseware. They know how to choose the perfect rug. They've done it a couple of times before. And then on top of it as well, there's also the other side of it. There's people who might have came into your database after January who are missing out on that really key information. So moving on to where we saw blast campaigns fitting into afterwards. Obviously, we weren't getting rid of them entirely. It's still a very core part of your strategy. But what we moved to is going towards quality messaging timed right. So you'll see here, we were doing a good bit less in terms of literal campaigns being sent out every week. But what we were communicating to everybody in terms of the blast campaign that's sent out to anybody who's engaged, you were sending people like really key sales at key moments, especially key seasonal moments in the year. So you had Christmas in July, where you're talking an awful lot about fly products, which protect the horse from insects and stuff like that at that time of the year. You got Black Friday, of course, as well, and Cyber Monday and stuff like that. We also had this great December campaign, the 12 Days of Christmas, where basically every single day somebody would get a 24-hour flash deal. You have to go over to the website from the email. You get to open up a little box and see what that is, and all this sort of stuff. You know, it's creative that catches people's attention. It stands out in their inbox, and on top of it as well, it's relevant to everybody. You're going to want to hear about that sale, whether you've never purchased from Horseware before or if you've purchased many different times before. So that was what we were doing for the blast campaigns to start off. But in terms of the real driver of a lot of our gains for this strategy, it's getting into the automations. So to start off with, the abandoned browse was, I think, one of our first really big opportunities. Now, this is an email that's triggered for a subscriber who's viewed a product and then left the page and done nothing else. So this is obviously a different kind of intention. They haven't added to cart. They haven't gotten to checkout. So what you're trying to do there is you're trying to meet them where they're at. And by meeting them where they're at, you got to talk about, okay, what is Horseware about? Talk about even like, as I said before, we've got multiple different ranges of Horseware between Rambo, Rhino, Amigo. So you can go ahead and educate them on a lot of brand specific stuff right there, instead of them having to either go through different parts of the website, or maybe they'll go away and they'll try and do a bit of their own research and stuff like that. This is a really key moment to just grab their attention. Say, hey, here's the key things that you need to know before buying with Horseware, and ultimately get them back towards adding a product to cart and hopefully completing that purchase as well. So in the next one, in the next stage of intent, obviously, is the abandoned cart. And this is, again, as I said before, we're meeting customers where they're at. They're at a different stage here. So they haven't gotten all the way towards the checkout. They haven't gotten out the credit card necessarily. But they have as well added to an actual cart. So I suppose at that point, they've heard a bit of education from us. They know a bit more about the brand. They at least are interested enough that they can add it to that cart and maybe think about it. But they probably need a bit of information that's not coming directly from us. And you see this with an awful lot of customers around. People are looking at reviews much more than ever. People want to know what other customers like them are looking for. So Horseware, of course, like being in business 40 years, had a lot of great reviews and a lot of great loyal customers. And on top of it, what really helped here too is that they had a lot of great user-generated content. So this is stuff, videos that people were posting on social media and things like that, it's not like super polished influencer content or anything like that. But what it is it's real video content from real horse owners who are using Horseware, who are loving it. And they're loving it enough that they're just posting it without any particular, monetary gain for themselves or anything like that. All we had to do was reach out and say, hey, we love the video that you posted. We love to see that your horse is enjoying the use of this product. Do you mind if we use it? In many cases, they're more than happy for us to. And what this is doing is we're having our abandoned cart emails. this UGC content that's spread everywhere. And on top of that, the actual text reviews as well that were taken from our main review platform. And it's building a bit of social trust. But on top of it as well, it's just building a little bit of hype off the back of that too. They know about Horseware. They can see other people very happily using Horseware. They can see other people's horses as well using and enjoying it the most out of Horseware. They're putting themselves in their shoes and they're saying like, oh yeah, they're starting to get hyped about it, So it's just about that last little bit of extra push to get them a bit further down that pipeline. So then another great new thing that we were doing for Horseware is introducing SMS as a channel. So they hadn't done SMS before. It's a recommendation that we made based on a couple of things. It was a sort of thing where we had a lot of customers who would trust us enough with it. And on top of it as well, because they were working in the US market, it seems to work very well there. They also, on top of it, US consumers are used to hearing via SMS from a lot of brands and stuff like that. But the really great thing about SMS is that you have a very direct line of communication with people who trust your brand enough to get a phone number. It's kind of like one of the most important or trust necessary things that you can get off a customer besides the credit card details. So you're communicating to these people who trust you enough to give your phone number, which again, isn't as many people who would trust you with your email address. And you're communicating to them directly. You're getting straight into their messages app, And there's a lot of things you can talk to them about there. One of the key things you can do for their campaigns, for instance, is time-sensitive, SMS-only deals. These might not even necessarily be about discounts on margin. This could even be like giveaways and stuff like that, or a chance to win something if you're among the first 200 to buy on a sale or things like that. Stuff that's not eating into your margin, but again, is driving people to maybe make the decision a bit quicker, maybe to get back into the website, take a look, and stuff like that. Early access is also a really key thing for a lot of people, and especially I think with a client like Horseware, or especially any kind of clothes client too. And the key reason for that is, when the likes of Black Friday comes up, very often you'll have stock issues and stuff like that. Somebody's looking for the exact right size for their horse. They're looking for a color that, matches something else that either matches the other colors that they've got, or even what they're wearing, or different things like that. And very often a source of frustration for these customers is they get in, they're willing to buy and stuff like that. But the problem is that their size is gone, their color is gone, something like that. So what we did was, it's about 24 hours before the sale went up, we went ahead and sent an early access SMS to them and just allowed them to get straight in, use the discount, get their Black Friday offer for anyone else. And what this is doing is rewarding that trust that they've given you by giving them that first bit of access. And again, it's not eating into your margin, but it's really helping your customer journey and your user experience. On top of it as well, it's a real crucial thing to stand out during Black Friday. So before, a lot of people, are going to be receiving an awful lot of email coming up to every Q4. A lot of people will be subscribed to 6, 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 different email newsletters. But most of the time, people are not subscribed to more than 1 or 2 different brands via SMS, especially in Europe. Very often, it'll be even just 1. So, yeah. As well, the other side of it is too, for SMS flows. What was it? We could communicate to people as they want. So with flows, with automations and stuff like that, we can deliver an even higher return on investment from those automations. And the reason for that is that Klaviyo can actually detect what kind of channel a customer would rather hear from. And if that is SMS, can look back and say like, okay, they were more likely to click on SMSs they received and stuff like that. Then we can send them that instead of saying abandoned cart email or an abandoned browse email, an abandoned checkout email, stuff like that. The result of it is, I suppose we had like a 10x the click rate of their emails for this new channel. So if you communicate with people with the channel they want, they're going to reward you with much higher engagement, as well as sales. So the result of that for their SMS strategy to start off, a 53-to-1 ROI in the US market, which was great to see, a 22-to-1 ROI overall in their SMS strategy, a 20% click rate, and a 2 to 4% placed order rate. And there's a couple of explanations as to why, it's a lot better in the US versus ROI overall. Now, 22-to-1 is still a very good figure. But a huge part of the reason why you're seeing that is in the US, there's 2 things going on. Number one, people are much more used to receiving SMS marketing in the US. Typically, there'll be 1 or 2 brands where they're going to go ahead and subscribe to their SMS on. They've been doing this, especially even around Black Friday, for years now, versus it's still quite fresh in Europe in many ways. And the other side of it is just the cost. So the infrastructure in the US is a good bit more developed. It is a good bit cheaper to do SMS marketing in the US versus in Europe. But you can still achieve a very nice ROI on SMS in Europe as well. You just need to be careful with your character limits and stuff like that. But yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I think SMS in particular is a really cool example of, not about discounting heavier during busy periods like Black Friday, but SMS is such an intimate channel that it's really at a time where, at the likes during Black Friday and Christmas, where attention is so hard to get for the consumer. If you can communicate with them that way and kind of remind them to take an action or remind them about your brand, it's a super effective way to drive more revenue without discounting further. But so, Pork, we've talked all about CRM, but obviously CRM is, as we said, should be making around 12% of your overall revenue. Obviously, paid search and social and SEO as well are such important channels for businesses. Do we have any examples of how CRM activity helped to power any of these channels for Horseware?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of channel integration, these are one of the great benefits of working here at Wolfgang Digital. Very often, email marketers can be quite siloed versus over here. We got the great benefit of having an in-house of our own email marketing department. If I've ever got any kind of ideas of how to work with the likes of SEO or PPC, especially for a client like Horseware that works with us across all these channels, you just walk down the stairs and go ahead and annoy the SEO people and PPC people and just, get it sorted. So to start off, we'll talk about what we did for PPC. So in terms of fueling paid search, we integrated our Klaviyo customer data into Google Ads. And this did two really key things for us. The first thing as well is to create lookalike audiences. And when it comes to creating lookalike audiences, we could, really zone in on what is the kind of customer that we want. And of course, for any business, that is your VIP customers, that is your customers who are spending the most frequently, and saying, okay, for our new customer acquisition campaigns, let's target people who look like them. And then on top of it as well, to make that even more efficient, we can go ahead and tell Google, okay, here's the current customers, the current VIP customers, and the current subscribers, and let's not target them. And the result of that is obviously you get customers who are much more likely to buy, much more likely to buy frequently. And on top of it as well, they're customers who are, you're not spending twice, for instance, or you're not wasting any ad spend either. And the result of that is great for ROAS for any of these strategies. In fact, the ads that we sent to our customer match list were our highest performing, with a ROAS of 15.1. So then for SEO content, there's a lot of great SEO content that were being built here at Wolfgang for Horseware, as well as just contributing to their blog overall. So what our emails were doing then, though, as well, is promoting new blog releases. So making sure that we're just getting blogs front and center in front of our email subscribers, and creating this really highly engaged traffic during non-sale periods. So there's a couple of reasons why this is important. I mean, number one, it helps people get invested in the blog, actually come back to the blog and stuff like that, engage with it, see Horseware as this really authoritative and useful source of information for them. On top of it, it's really engaged traffic, very often with an open rate of 60 to 70%. Even looking at it, was the longest read time out of any of the blog traffic they're getting from any channel. It was all the way up there at about 6 minutes on average. And as well, what is kind of nice, and I suppose not really expected either, was a nice little bit of full margin revenue as well. This is emails that we were sending in between sales, during quiet periods, things like that, just being helpful, not trying to sell anything. Very often there weren't even products linked in these emails. But what happened is people would, read up on the blog. They say, okay, yeah, absolutely. Well, this makes sense that I should do this or that. And then they reward the brand with, I guess, a lot of really nice full margin revenue, which is great. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think those are two amazing examples, and I think a massive takeaway for anyone here to make sure you bring with you is CRM is so essential today if you use paid search or paid social advertising and rely on that for acquisition. Having a good CRM strategy in place, showing what the example Port gave, having visibility on high quality or important audiences and high quality first party data to essentially fuel your new customer acquisition on those advertising platforms, because like all the challenges I spoke about earlier, it's so expensive. platforms are taking more control. So the more guidance we can give to our acquisition channels on Google and on paid social as well, the better our marketing will be on that front. And as we showed, the ROAS will actually help improve there, despite ROAS being such a tricky metric to maintain as well. So yeah, that's the nutshell of the strategy, I suppose. Now that we've spoken about that and what we did, what kind of impact did this have on Horseware's business from your perspective, Padraig?
So to start off on email, we had some great results looking in. So first thing to start off with is a 446% year-over-year Klaviyo revenue growth uplift in 2024, which is massive. It was a great result. We were very happy with. A very interesting one that we really like to see as well was a 35% year-over-year uplift in campaign revenue in Q4. And the reason why this is interesting is because we sent 40% less emails in this period as well. And I guess it really speaks to, it's something that we very often find when you're working with brands who've been doing email marketing for a while. There's kind of this feeling of, oh God, okay, I'm sending about 3-4 emails a week. If I send one less, that's revenue on the table, And I'd encourage a lot of brands to kind of really take a hard look at that, because very often, if you send less email, it doesn't necessarily translate into less revenue. But if you send the right kind of email at the right time with the right kind of offer, it'll much benefit your revenue. On top of it as well, 207% uplift in unique customers in the database, which is again great to see. It has some great effects on the database as well. We talked about it here earlier at the objectives. So how do we deliver on those objectives for the database? So taking a look at it again, we started the year with only 15% of subscribers having ever purchased. And by the time we were going to January this year, it was 42% of all subscribers, which is a massive change and a great result for us. While only 6% of the database were repeat purchasers before we started, by the end of 2024, this is 26%. So you can just see there, it's a great change to the database. It's in a much healthier place by the time we got to the end of 2024, and a great signal to our strategy. To look at then lifetime value, as we were talking there at the beginning, we saw a 34% year-over-year uplift in customer lifetime value, which was great. Huge amount of that is, of course, increasing our repeat purchasers, going from 6 to 26. You can see it kind of pay off there in the 34% uplift. And even some of those new customers as well, while email might have nurtured them towards a second purchase, things like that, has a great overall impact.
Great, thank you, Padraig. And I'd say everyone here is keen to hear from the client's perspective, the kind of results that we're seeing, as opposed to just the agency. So Jody, what kind of impact did our search and CRM strategy have on the business overall?
Yeah, so the results far exceeded our goals and expectations. In the first year that we worked with the team at Wolfgang, we achieved over 300% year-on-year revenue growth. And this was achieved by truly nurturing our existing customer base, by improving loyalty, while also increasing our subscriber list, as Padraig mentioned. You do typically see that revenue from email comes in around 9 to 12% of total revenue, but we saw some months with up to 15%, which is just an incredible result. We also delivered positive ROAS from advertising month on month, with PPC maintaining really strong return, but more importantly, lower costs, even in peak periods like autumn, winter, Black Friday, and that I truly believe is down to the cross-channel integration. We also, through Wolfgang's SEO expertise, drove significant improvements. So we saw a consistent increase in brand growth, which was so important for all sides of our business. We consistently climbed rankings, produced content, as Padraig showed, that really resonated with our equestrian consumers, and we consistently outran competitors. By re-engaging lapsed customers in CRM, it also led to increased brand demand in search, which is just so great to see. And then overall, across the new European D2C stores, search and CRM channels grew overall by 250% year on year, and that accounted for 70% of our total revenue. So to see search and CRM, really reap the rewards is amazing for our brand. But the overall strategy ensured we grew not from beating competitors or our retailers on price, but from being a really helpful brand, speaking to the customer at the right moment of their buying journey. And CRM was so critical in achieving this.
Brilliant, thank you. So yeah, I think Horseware probably achieved what a lot of Irish businesses are looking to do. So if you had one piece of advice, Jody, to give to another brand thinking about scaling internationally, what would that be?
That's a good question.
Big question.
Yeah. Um, I think localization and automation is everything.
Mm.
I truly believe it's about speaking to your customers at the right place, at the right time, with the right creative and content. Um, but ultimately, my top tip would be to ensure that all the channels are working cohesively. So integration of your digital marketing strategy across all the channels ensures that you have that like logical flow to customers as they come through the journey of your marketing funnel. And then that cross-channel consistency is definitely what drove customer trust. It drove up our retention rate, and it ultimately allowed our business to scale with such confidence.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Jody and Pork, for all those amazing insights. So that kind of comes to the end of our presentation and our case study. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you feel you are underperforming against any of the sort of industry benchmarks we spoke about, or Wolfgang benchmarks that we spoke about as well, or if you just want to understand what opportunities there are for your brand in terms of CRM, or understand is your CRM strategy effective, we're going to give the first 20 people who email audits@wolfgangdigital.com a free CRM audit to give you a nice steer and get you started on how you can focus that channel on growing your business, both internationally or domestically, but most importantly for growing lifetime value. So yeah, I think we've a few minutes now for some questions if anyone has any, to pop them in the chat, or if there's any that have come through as we've gone. Let's have a look. Anything?
SMS, I guess we do that one. Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, we start off then. So there was a question here about, I suppose, SMS, do you use that for educational content or more promotionally driven? I would say it's a very difficult one to use for educational content, especially in the likes of Europe or in GB, where it is just that bit more expensive to send. So you're very often constricted to just 160 characters, which is, it's a bit of a throwback to trying to send an actual SMS yourself, and trying to keep it within these certain limits. So it can be difficult to do that, unless you are sending as well an MMS, which is one that includes media, because that has a slightly larger, or not slightly larger, a much larger character limit associated with it, because it's kind of a different system. But yeah, it could work within the US. It's not something that we focused on. And the reason for that is, I suppose we were looking at SMS as a way to, as I said before, just communicate these like fast, get someone to get to the website, take a certain action that we want. And again, when we say promotional too, it's a lot of the time something that's not eating into margin at all. So before we did like a kind of giveaway there thing where it's like the first 200 people to buy Black Friday, we're in a chance to win this like online exclusive, like you couldn't get it anywhere else and all that. And that worked fabulously well, without any discounting at all. That said, I wouldn't discount doing the promos either. It certainly does work too, especially when you're looking at your automated journey. If you have an abandoned cart, and let's say you're trying to encourage people to go ahead and buy a little bit bigger, you can do all these little strategies where just offering somebody 5% off a very large cart, and it's well worth it to you based on the margin and stuff like that, can really encourage your AOV to go up, especially because it's there, it's right there at the right time. They're considering it. That 5% might just get them over the line, especially if it's a large purchase. But on top of it as well, as a business, it makes total sense because your average order value goes up, and as a result, your CLV as well. So yeah.
Cool. This is another one actually for Pork. So how do I know if SMS is the right channel for my business? It's a good one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I guess on the back of that, there's a couple of things with that. First of all, knowing what markets you're trying to sell into. If you're, it's absolutely possible to get a great return on it in Europe and in the UK. If you're trying to expand in the US, it is an amazing tool. It's great. Like as I said before, they're more used to it. It's quite cheap to send SMSs in the US too. So that can be great. On top of it as well, you should know as well in terms of when it comes to your brand, like how frequently people are purchasing can often have a bit of an impact too. As well, I think how many times can you offer somebody like an engaging kind of action You know, if your brand is a sort of brand where, you know, you're having stuff going on the website, you're having very frequent new product releases, or you're having kind of sales and things like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a sale, as you said before. Like, it can be something like, you know, every 2 or 3 months you got a new product drop, and if people are excited about that, you can use SMS to get them all to sign up to be the first to know, or something like that. If you have early access to that product drop, even, you don't even necessarily need to do with a sale, because if you have a new product drop and you know it's going to sell out, you can you don't even have to discount that at all. You can just say, okay, I want to be the first to know about this product drop. You get all these SMS people in, it'll sell out, but it'll go to your loyal customers, those who will come back and buy again. Yeah.
Great. Okay, that might be all the time we have for today anyway. So, but if anyone has any more questions, I know there's some that came in there, but I think we need to wrap up now. But please do feel free to email us audits@wolfgangdigital.com, to get your CRM audit within the first 20. But if not, feel free to ask us any questions as well that you have, and we're more than happy to get back to you on that. But thank you so much to everyone for joining today. Thank you to Jody for joining us, and Porrick as well. Hopefully you found it useful, and yeah, thank you so much, guys.